Welcome back to Grief Inspired. Has anybody said to you, don't be so emotional? You've been sad long enough. It's time to get over it. Just move on. Just be happy. Move forward. And how does that make you feel? I know for me, it was infuriating. And I think that we all respond differently to grief. Um, and we have different reactions to it. And I think for me personally, I spent the longest time being angry. I was really angry for a really long period of time. Um, and after the anger, I spent a long time being really, really depressed and feeling sorry for myself. But I've been reading a book lately that's been really interesting to me, and it's John Bradshaw, and it's called Homecoming, and it's about his book. He is a psychotherapist, and he talks about healing our inner child and how we can do that, and how we look at the world is very much related to how we look at ourselves, and how we react to the world is very much based on how we were as children, how we were parented, and really what our view was and our perception of what happened. So it's not necessarily the exact events that happen, it's how we perceive them. And I find that to be really interesting. And when I was reading this one particular chapter, I thought it was interesting because it talked about some of our childhoods, and I think it very much translates into our lives and the way that we grieve. And he talks about how we had some families, or a lot of families, have a no feel rule, meaning if you have an emotion or if you have a feeling, stop being that way. Stop being angry. Stop, lashing out. Stop feeling so emotional, right? We're told to sort of push down our feelings, and our feelings aren't acknowledged. And so what that translates into later in life is that we don't know how to even acknowledge what our feelings are. And we oftentimes, we don't even know what we are feeling until it comes flying out of our mouth, or until it comes by way of our addictions. So anyways, that's one. The no feel rule is what he talks about. He also talks about the no talk rule, meaning any expression of your emotions is basically just prohibited. Like, stop it. We don't want to hear it, right? Did you grow up like that? Did you have either the no feel rule, meaning you you get to the point where you don't even know what you're feeling because no one ever talked to you about feelings, or the no talk rule, meaning, we don't want to hear it. Like, don't bring it up. We're not interested. There were some families that only certain emotions were allowed, right? So you weren't allowed to express anger. You were only allowed to express positive emotions, and so, or what we consider to be positive emotions. And so what happens with that is that if there isn't a release of emotions, if you can't get your emotions out, they get trapped within. And there's lots of different theories around this, but it's true. And, I've noticed it, just in my own grief journey. And emotions are energy. And emotions have an energetic vibration. And they can get stuck within us if we don't talk about them, if we don't know what they are, if we don't express them. And so that's why it's so important when we're grieving to talk about what's happening, to find somewhere where you can communicate about what's going on and what you feel in a place that's in an environment that's safe and non-judgmental. So what I'm not suggesting is do not go out and start talking about your grief feelings with all the people around you, because most people will get freaked out about it. But if you can find a therapist or a grief coach like myself, or a close friend who's not going to be judgmental, who's going to really understand where you're coming from, and who's going to be willing to listen, then I think that's very, very healthy. And it can keep these unexpressed emotions and unexpressed grief from getting stuck in your body. Um, and, how do you know? How do you know if your grief is unexpressed or if it's stuck in your body? Well, it shows up in different ways. Um, a lot of us, we carry tension in our shoulders. We carry tension in our low back. Those are the areas where I have always kind of carried my tension. And when I was grieving and, going through my entire grief process, I think that was, I had a lot of neck pain. And I think that was partly why, is because I was still figuring out how to get these emotions out. The other things, uh, grinding of your teeth. So do you grind your teeth at night, or have you started grinding your teeth at night? Um, even, and this one I thought, and again, this is all from his book. He talks about shallow breathing. And I found that to be really interesting because um, if you've ever had an experience, that's a true life or death experience where you're waiting to see, is someone going to live or die? There's this period of time where, talk about shallow breathing, where, when I talk about it, when I talk about my time in the NICU, I remember thinking it was like I was holding my breath for the entire time. And I was really blown away by that in his book, because that's this emotional energy. It gets trapped in your body and it shows itself and it comes up as breathing really shallow. And I remember the whole time feeling like, when I explained to people, what is the NICU experience like? Well, it's like when you were a kid and someone kicked you in the gut and you fell backwards and you lost your breath. Has that ever happened to you? Do you know what I'm talking about? When you've lost your breath, that's what it feels like you're holding your breath and you're afraid to breathe and you can't breathe. And so what John Bradshaw is saying in his book is it's a buildup of emotion. The other thing that he talked about too was tears, and that tears really do serve to help release the stressful chemicals that build up as a result of the pain, of the grief, of the extra emotion. And so I encourage as much crying as possible, and to give yourself time to really cry and to let it out. Because again, there's proof here that crying is a way to release those chemicals, and it's a way to express your grief, right? Which they call mourning, is the expression of grief. And it's a way to get some of the energy, the extra emotion, the emotions that are going on within you, getting them out of your body. So that's really important. And I really just want to touch on that, if you had in your family, if you had, the no feel rule or the no talk rule, and there were certain emotions that you are not allowed to feel or were not acceptable for you to express in your family environment, I really want to just acknowledge that and say it doesn't have to be that way. That everything you feel, everything that's going on in your head, all the emotions that are happening right now are all very valid. And there are no good or bad emotions. They are your emotions. What's good or bad is what you choose to do with them. And the reality is that if you stuff them down and you don't express them, then that's what turns into other problems in your life, right? You start getting really resentful. You get pent-up anger. You move to addictions, whether it be stress eating or drinking or drugs or working too much. The addictions all are a result of that. So the way to prevent all of that is really to express your emotions and get them out. And I know it sounds touchy-feely, but It's a fact. If you think about the energy in your body and the energy of grief moving through you, if you're experiencing grief right now, I know it. I know that you know what I'm talking about. You can feel it in your body, right? And it doesn't go away. And you wake up with it in the morning, and you go to bed with it at night. So the way to eliminate that and the way to let that start to subside in time is to find a way to express it. And again, it doesn't mean you have to do all kinds of talk therapy. There's so many other things that you can do, and I would be more than happy to share them with you. I'd love to hear what you guys do. Art therapy is big. Music therapy is big. Being just, writing, journaling, there's so many different things that you can do. So I'd love to hear what you found. And, and it's interesting in these times of isolation when we're all isolating ourselves, there's a difference between being isolated and being lonely. And I think that I know for me personally that the grief process was really, really lonely. I thought that no one really understood. I thought that people, wanted me to stop being so emotional, just get over it, just move on. Aren't you better already? Everyone was just waiting for me to be okay again so that, I would just go back to normal. And, what's interesting is I never did. I never went back to normal. There was no normal after losing my son. It was a new normal. And I had to rebuild everything about my life from the ground up. And, and I'm glad that I did. And I look at it now and I think my life is dramatically different than it was before any of my losses. And I'm glad for that now. I really am. It's just different, right? And you can say good, bad, or indifferent, but it's just different. And then the one last thing that I just wanted to talk about too is be careful when people ask how you are, and feel free to be truthful. And if you want to put a positive spin on it, you could say, well, I'm not doing great right now, but I know I'm going to be okay. But gone are the days when you should just say, I'm fine. Because the reality is you're not fine. And when you deny your own pain by telling people that you're fine, so you're actually, it's like denying yourself and denying everything that you're going through and denying the life of the person that you're grieving and the magnitude and the intensity of what they mean to you, that you're actually denying those when you deny your own pain. And so I just want you to take a minute. The next time somebody says, how are you? And you do the rote thing and you say, I'm fine. Feel free to say, well, you know what? I said that too quickly. I'm not fine. Things are really, really hard right now. I'm really depressed, or I'm really angry, or I'm really struggling. And if you want to put a positive spin on it and you want to say, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I know I'm going to be okay. Or I have people to help me. So, don't feel like you have to, do whatever. Because everybody's got advice. And if you don't want their advice, say, I'm good. I'm handling my situation and I'm going to be okay. But don't just say I'm fine because that's what they want to hear. Or don't just say I'm fine because you want to minimize so that they'll just stop talking about it, right? If you're not fine, say I'm not fine, but I really don't want to talk about it right now. And that's so okay. And I think that by doing that, one, you're helping yourself. And I think you're also helping other people because you're giving other people permission to know what's really going on with you. And there's no reason why you can't say, you know what, today's a shit day. Today I'm doing not well. So, but I need some space. I need some time alone. I'm going to, do what I need to do. I'm going to go see somebody. I have a grief coach that I'm working with, or, whatever it is that you want to say is perfectly fine. But just say the truth and just be truth. And the next time somebody tells you, don't be so emotional, or aren't you over it already, or it's time to move on, tell them that they don't get it. And say, I really don't need your opinion. And it's perfectly okay to do that. So you are in the right. Do what you need to do. Look within yourself and in your heart and decide what's most important to you. And if I can help you in any way, please reach out. Send me an email. Send me a message on my website, griefinspired.com. Let me know how I can help. And I would be more than happy to help in any way I can, because that's why I do this. That's what's important to me. And I think that we all need to share what's going on with us a little more freely and not be so emotional in terms of like, just like, yes, be emotional, right? But it doesn't have to be in a negative kind of way. Emotions are not negative. So just be you. Be yourself. Tell the truth. Be real. And if the people around you can't handle it, find new people to be around. So I'm here for you. Let me know if I can help. Let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what's happening in your world. And I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.